We're in Psalm 5 now, and this is a great one to help us pray. Dale Ralph Davis calls it the prayer tutorial. And one of the other great features about this little book he's written, The Way of the Righteous in the Muck of Life, is he's actually included some of his own translations of the Psalms. So I'm going to read his translation now. It might be slightly different from your Bibles at home, but let me read that for us. Psalm 5. Give ear to my words, O Yahweh. Understand my murmuring. Pay attention to the voice of my cry for help, my King and my God. For it is to you that I pray. O Yahweh, in the morning you will hear my voice. In the morning I will set in order my request to you, and watch expectantly. For you are not a God who delights in wickedness. Evil can never be a guest of yours. Arrogant men will never hold their ground in your presence. You hate all evildoers. You cause those who speak lies to perish. Yahweh detests bloodthirsty and deceitful men. But I, in your overflowing and faithful love, will enter your house. I will bow down towards your holy temple in fear of you. Yahweh, lead me in your righteousness. Because of those lurking for me, make your way straight before me. For there is nothing reliable in their mouths, their heart is destruction, their throat is an open grave. With their tongues they speak smooth talk. Hold them guilty, O God. Let them fall because of their schemes. Banish them for their many rebellious deeds. For they have revolted against you. But let all who take refuge in you rejoice. Let them shout for joy forever. And may you be their shelter. And may those who love your name exult in you. For you will bless the righteous one, Yahweh. You will wrap him around with favour like a shield. Well, Ralph Davis calls this psalm a prayer tutorial, and it is a little bit like that. It does give us a guide, a steer of ways in which we can construct the way we come to pray. And the first thing is this, he comes from verses 1 to 3, and he talks about preparing your prayer. You notice the way David, who wrote this psalm, begins to turn to Yahweh. He says to the Lord, listen to me. Pay attention to my cries. Hear my requests. David, if you like, is pleading with the Lord, saying, Yahweh, Lord, please listen to my prayer. Hear my cries. And he comes expectantly. He knows that the Lord will listen. He knows the Lord will hear him when he comes to pray. And that's true for us, isn't it? When we come to the Lord to pray, we know he is listening. We know he hears our prayers. We know he hears our cries. Prepare your prayer. Secondly, verses 4 to 6, he says, know your God. Know your God. As he comes to pray, he reminds himself of what God is like. Not a God who delights in wickedness. Not a God who delights or gives time or favour to David's enemies. No, you hate all evildoers. Yahweh detests deceitful men. David comes to pray to his Lord, knowing he is a God of justice, knowing he's a God who does what's right, knowing that when David cries for justice, when he cries for mercy, when he cries for God to do the right thing, he knows that he can trust that God will. Know your God. Know that your God is a God who hears your prayers and a God who will deal with you with justice. Then he says, he looks at verse 7 and 9, he says, make your request to the Lord. Do you notice how in that verse he starts to talk about himself? But I, he says, Yahweh, Lord, lead me in your righteousness. He brings himself to the Lord in prayer, not just the concerns around him, but he brings himself. He comes to enter his house. Because of your overflowing, faithful love, he can come to pray to him. Make your request to the Lord. Come with confidence. Come knowing that your God is a God of justice, that your God will hear you. And come knowing that it's because of his unfailing love and faithfulness that you can approach, that you can even make this request. Finally, he looks at verses 10 to 12, he says, declare your confidence. Declare your confidence as you bring your requests, as you come to pray to God. Do so confidently, knowing that God is always faithful, always true, always keeps his promise, always does the right thing. And he knows that coming to the Lord is a great place to be, a safe place to be. But verse 11 is striking, isn't it? But let all who take refuge in you rejoice. Let them shout for joy forever, and may you be their shelter. In times of trouble, we look for a safe place. We look for shelter. We look for refuge. And David knows in the midst of his troubles, he can come to the Lord in prayer, confident that in him he will find safety and shelter and comfort. And look at verse 12. For you will bless the righteous one, Lord. You will wrap him round with favour like a shield. Again, this blessing is echoed where we began in the Psalm, Psalm 1. Blessed is the man who walks in this way. But ultimately, it points us to David. It points us to God's anointed king who was blessed by the Lord, who received his favour. But it points us to King Jesus as well, the true righteous one, the one who knew God's blessing and favour. And because of him, because of his death this Easter time and his resurrection, we too can know that blessing that flows from the cross. Friends, we can come to the Lord confidently. We can come to pray to him knowing he hears, knowing he will do the right thing, and knowing that when we come, we find a place of safety, a place of refuge, and a place that we can know God's blessing, his joy, forever and ever. Amen.